Well, today I'm in Brighton, a town on the south coast of England, a very famous seaside resort, often referred to as London by the Sea. There are a number of cemeteries in Brighton. This is the Extramural Cemetery, but it appears as we go up through the hill that it leads into the Brighton Corporation Cemetery. Not clear where the demarcation is, so we'll just include it under the one. There's a very elaborate statue here. We have the horse on top. It's standing over something, but I can't quite make out what that is. Although there appears to be two hands on the left-hand side of it. This elaborate memorial is to John Frederick Guinnett, born 1819 and died 1892. This one has the statue with the angel, which has got a rather interesting contemplating pose. Some large tombs here, almost mausoleums. On the left I see Caroline Jane Reeves and Theodore Reeves. And then moving across to the one in the white stone, we've got Howard Vokins, who died peacefully in 1884, and then William Henry Vokins and Gerald Bernard Vokins. Higher up we have the broken column, and the inscription on this one is to Wintour Harris, FRCS, who died at Brighton, 1889. Private Henry George Cook of the 5th Battalion Middlesex Regiment, who was born at Kino, Chile, South America, and died at Southmead Hospital in Bristol of wounds received in action in 1916. This is a very beautiful cemetery, very peaceful, with the flowers and the trees and the memorials. Because this is on a very steep hill, they provide steps that lead you up the bank so you can reach the stones on a higher level. There are well kept woodland paths through the cemetery, and the stones, well, you can see the stones. They are accessible. A pair of tombs here remembering the families of Tilbury and Tarner. We've got Letitia, the daughter of Edward Tilbury and the wife of Edwin Adolphus Tarner. He was of High Street, St Marylebone in London, and of Tilbury Place in Brighton. And alongside it we have this tomb here to Edward Tilbury and other members of the family. Captain John Blackburn Hawkes, late the 3rd Light Dragoons, who died at King Williamstown on the Cape of Good Hope in 1868. But on top of the memorial you can see the insignia of the Freemasons, the compass and the square. This is a very beautiful spot. a large area here with iron railings right the way round, and we read on the memorial at the front, Louisa Elizabeth, daughter of the Lord and Lady George Lennox, and Louisa Frederica, the wife of the Lord George Lennox, and then the Lord George Lennox, second son of Charles, the 4th Duke of Richmond. So this is the Lennox family plot. This one with the dappled shadow on it is to George Barton, third and youngest son of the late J.J. Barton. And at the top you can see insignia in the stone. And as you pan down the stone, it mentions the members of the Brighton Battalion of Rifle Volunteers erected this stone in the memory of a much esteemed comrade, and so forth. This one is almost totally taken up with the figure of Christ on the stone. Mary Plomley, widow of George James Sullivan, late captain of the Royal Horse Guards Blue, 1866. This one is the memory of James Mitchell, in brackets Shrimp, died in 1947, and his wife died 20 years later. And on the right hand side it tells us that they were the devoted and loving parents of 11 children. This is interesting. It's Kathleen Courtney Morgan, the wife of Charles Morgan, M.A., Royal Navy. But his title is Inst with a small r and Com with a small r. I'm assuming the second one is Commander. Is the first one Instructor Commander? If there is such a thing, let me know. An area segmented off here with these polished marble pillars, and they have names on the curbstones between them. There we have Florence Sophia Kennard, Elizabeth Franklin Kennard, and across there John Howard Kennard, and therefore right the way round this area are the Kennards. A very tall marble column here, and this is to a man who was very important in the development of the railways. This is William Strudley, member of the Institute of Civil Engineers, Mechanical Engineers. I'm not sure what MINA is. And this monument has been erected by the officers and employees of the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. Up on the hillside here we have this very tall cross covered with ivy, inside heavy metal railings with a large lock on the front. Not able to get you a name on that one. This is a very impressive memorial with a figure on top with the cross and the anchor. The inscription is to William Boughton Sterling, MD, who was called suddenly from this life in 1887, aged 49 years, to the inexpressible grief of his sorrowing widow. This is Colonel Frederick Talbot, Cornwall, retired Bombay Staff Corps. He died in Brighton 1893. And as we pan down, we find his wife. She died in 1915. This is to Flying Officer Theodore Cecil Sanders of the RAF, killed at Sarafand, Palestine, 1935, aged 23. Something a little different here, and the name, just about readable at the top, is to Robert Woods. I notice back amongst the graves the red wreath and the war memorial grave just behind it, so let's go and have a look at that one. This is to Captain George Burden McKean, VC, Victoria Cross, Military Medal, 14th Battalion, the Canadian Infantry, died in 1926, aged 37. And immediately in front of that we had the red wreath, and someone's put a photograph of this highly decorated soldier. A very unusual sort of drum here, and on the side the name is Edward Knott, and on the other side his wife Anne Knott. Not quite sure what it's trying to show, but it's quite different. This one is to Edward Walters, an architect, late of Manchester, who died at Brighton in 1872. Amongst the gravestones lives a cat. A simple styled mausoleum standing independently, and this is to the Baldwin family. A very elaborate tomb here where the path divides, and the name on the side I noted is Ford. And another large one close by, just underneath the trees here. No obvious name, but the great marble doors are larger than most of the memorials here in this graveyard. And beside this path you can see a number of vaults built into the hillside. One there, 1861, bricked up. The next one is bricked up, and there they go right down the hillside. Alfred Sampson, who died at Brighton in the 20th year of his age, after much suffering, borne with great patience, the dear and only son of Colonel John Sampson, and so forth. One here with iron posts in front, with iron link chains between them, and behind is the large solid stone doors. One suspects they've not been opened for many a decade. There is an inscription on the door, but it's not easy to read. But it looks to be long forgotten. One next to it has quite a different design. But again, it doesn't look as though anyone has looked after it or been inside it for a long, long time. This one is covered with plaques to different people. They appear to be the Stunt family of Hove, but clearly from the design of these plaques they were all put up at different times. And yet more of these mausoleum type tombs, clearly bricked up now with just plaques on the front. Nearby is this stone where the ivy is starting to grow over it, but it's got quite an interesting carving at the top. We've got the angel looking rather resigned about everything. All the way down this path are the larger tombs, but neglected, no one left to look after them now. This one on the corner, along the bottom edge, it reads entrance to the vault of Luke T. Flood. And above it we can see that there are floods mentioned. Luke T. Flood, formerly of Chelsea, but subsequently of Brighton. Entrance to the vault beneath. The one opposite has a clear inscription. This is to Edward Bensley Gardner, son-in-law of Smith Hannington, who died in 1886, aged 66 years. Down here are several arches that look as though they would have been entrances into tombs originally, but they're now bricked up, stone walls, and some of them have plaques on. This one here is to William Day, and then Hannah, the wife of William Day, and then Kitty, the wife of Charles V. Moore. Over the back there we can see a large memorial, and it appears to have a image in metal, brass or copper above it. So let's try and get across to it. This is the image we could see from afar, and beneath it tells us Frederick William Robertson, the Reverend, Perpetual Curate of Trinity Chapel, Brighton, died 1853. And on the other side of the same memorial we have this round image, and beneath we read Reverend F.W. Robertson, in grateful remembrance of his sympathy and in deep sorrow for the loss from the members of the Mechanics Institute and the working men of Brighton. There are some magnificent memorials here, tombs. Difficult to get to some of them, but with time one could get the inscription from them. This is a huge edifice on the side of the hill. An area with ironwork around it, but it does have these plaques on the outside. This one here reads to Mary, daughter of Richard Rugg, FRCS, died in 1908. And across there we've got one to Godfrey. He died, I can't really see that from here, he was aged 7 months. And if you look behind that, there are other plaques facing outwards, but impossible to reach. Just so many memorials. Here we have an area where there's 7 or 8 large tombs where the ivy has been allowed to grow right over it. So it's quite impossible to make out the inscriptions on it. Through the undergrowth, and quite impossible to get close to, I can just make out Fanny Amelia, the wife of Christopher Robson of the Royal Hotel in Brighton. In this area at the top we have the graveyard been allowed to grow completely naturally, and there's plenty of stones in there right over the back, quite impossible to reach now. Over there, standing above all this growth, I notice a war memorial grave. Let's get across to it. This is Second Lieutenant L.L. Coolings, Royal Air Force, 1918, aged 40. Pitching forward at a crazy angle records the sad deaths in a family of Thomas Francis and Helen Hayward. Helen died aged 5 years. Thomas Francis died aged 18 years. William Burdett died aged 19 years. Frank George died 18 years. And then we can see Charles Henry, but the details are lost in the vegetation. Large and very elaborate tomb over the back there. Lots of pinnacles and arches. And we notice that on the bottom is to John Collingwood. This is a truly magical place. The wildflowers, the bird song, just nature generally, and some wonderful memorials. Till the next time.